Hello, my friends. It is so good to have you here with me today. Before Walt Disney built one of the most famous entertainment companies in the world, his life was filled with failure. He lost money. He lost his first studio. He even lost the cartoon character he had created. But Walt did not stop. Each time one dream disappeared, he imagined something bigger. From a young artist with almost nothing, he created Mickey Mouse, changed animated films, and later built a place where stories could become real. So how did a man who failed again and again create a world known by millions? And near the end, I will share why Walt sometimes walked through Disneyland alone before the gates opened. Stay with me, because this is the remarkable story of Walt Disney. Walt Disney was born in Chicago in 1901, but some of his happiest childhood memories came from a small town in Missouri. There, the world felt quiet and open. He watched horses in the fields, birds in the trees, and small animals moving around the family farm. Walt loved to draw what he saw. He drew animals, people, and simple scenes from everyday life. Sometimes, he even sold small pictures to neighbors. His family did not have much money, and his father was strict, so life was not always easy. But drawing gave Walt a place where he could feel free. On paper, an ordinary animal could become funny, brave, or kind. A simple farm could become a magical world. Walt did not know it yet, but these peaceful memories would stay with him for the rest of his life. Years later, they would help shape the warm towns, friendly animals, and hopeful stories that millions of people would love. As Walt grew older, life became harder. His family moved to Kansas City, where Walt and his brother helped deliver newspapers. Each morning, he woke up before sunrise. In winter, the streets were dark and cold. His hands often hurt, but he still had to finish the work before school. The long hours made him tired, yet Walt continued to draw whenever he could. While the city around him felt busy and gray, his imagination remained bright. He filled paper with animals, faces, and little stories. Those difficult mornings taught Walt discipline. They also gave him a quiet dream. One day, he wanted to escape ordinary life and create something more beautiful. He did not know how yet, but the dream had already begun. When Walt was 16, the First World War was still changing lives across Europe. He wanted to join the army, but he was too young. So he changed the date on his papers and joined the Red Cross as an ambulance driver. By the time Walt arrived in France, the fighting had ended. Still, the experience took him far from home and showed him a much larger world. He drove through damaged towns, saw buildings marked by war, and met people whose lives had been changed forever. Even there, Walt continued to draw. He covered parts of his ambulance with cartoons and shared small pictures with the men around him. France did not make him famous, but it helped him grow. When Walt returned to America, he was no longer only a boy with a pencil. He was ready to find a real path for his imagination. Back in America, Walt searched for work as an artist. He found a job creating simple advertisements, where he met a talented young artist named Iwerks. Together, they began experimenting with drawings, cameras, and movement. Walt soon became fascinated by animation. Pictures shown quickly so they appear to move. To him, it felt almost magical. A drawing no longer had to remain still. With enough time and care, it could smile, dance, run, and tell a story. Walt spent long hours studying how one picture could connect smoothly to the next. For the first time, he understood what he truly wanted. He did not only want to draw characters, he wanted to make them feel alive. Walt believed animation could become something much bigger, So he opened a small studio in Kansas City. He called it Laugh-O-Gram. The studio was full of young artists, big ideas, and hopeful energy. Together, they created short cartoon films based on familiar stories. For a while, Walt felt that success was close. But the company did not earn enough money. Bills grew. Workers sometimes waited for their pay. Walt even slept in the studio because he could not afford a proper home. In the end, Laugh-O-Gram went bankrupt. Walt had lost his first company, but he had also learned an important lesson. A good idea was not enough. To protect a dream, he also needed money, planning, and the right people beside him. With very little money left, Walt packed a small suitcase and took a train to California. Hollywood was already becoming the center of the movie world, and he hoped it might give him another chance. There, Walt joined his brother Roy. Walt brought the ideas, while Roy understood money and business. Together, they opened a small studio with limited equipment and an uncertain future. This time, Walt was not building the dream alone. The new studio slowly began to grow. Walt and his team created a cheerful character called Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Audiences liked him, and for the first time, Walt felt that real success had arrived. But when Walt asked for a better contract, he discovered a painful truth. He did not own Oswald. The company distributing the films controlled the character. Even worse, several artists from Walt's team had been offered jobs without him. In only a short time, Walt lost his most successful character and much of the team he had built. He was deeply hurt, but the experience changed him. From that moment, Walt understood that creating something was not enough. He also had to protect it. On the train home, with almost everything gone, a new idea began to form. On the train back to California, Walt began thinking about a new character. He imagined a small mouse with round ears, bright eyes, and a brave heart. At first, Walt wanted to call him Mortimer, but his wife, Lillian, thought the name sounded too serious. She suggested Mickey instead. With help from the talented artist Iwerks, Mickey Mouse began to take shape. He was small, cheerful, and always ready to face trouble. In many ways, Mickey was like Walt himself. He had lost almost everything, but he still refused to give up. Walt had lost Oswald. Now he was creating a character that no one could take away from him. Creating Mickey Mouse was only the beginning. Walt still needed to make audiences notice him. The first Mickey films were silent, and movie companies showed little interest. Then Walt heard sound in a film and saw a new possibility. What if Mickey's movements could match music and sound perfectly? The result was Steamboat Willie. When it appeared in 1928, audiences were amazed. Mickey did not simply move across the screen. He seemed alive. Every whistle, step, and movement connected with the music. The film became a success, and Mickey quickly grew famous. Walt had not invented sound in movies, but he understood how to use it in a fresh way. He brought art, music, technology, and emotion together. After years of failure, the small mouse had finally opened the door Walt had been searching for. Mickey's success gave Walt's studio a new beginning. Soon, audiences met more unforgettable characters, including Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, and Pluto. Each character had a different personality. Donald was quick to lose his temper. Goofy was clumsy but kind. Pluto was loyal and playful. Together, they made Disney's world feel larger and more alive. But Walt was not satisfied with only short cartoons. While others celebrated Mickey's success, he was already thinking about the next challenge. Before we continue, Tell me in the comments, which Disney character do you like most? Mickey, Donald, Goofy, or Pluto? Your answer can be just one name. Then let us continue Walt's story. Mickey had saved the studio, but Walt was already dreaming of something much larger. He wanted to create a full-length animated film, one that could make people laugh, feel afraid, and even cry. Most people in Hollywood thought the idea was foolish. They believed audiences would never sit through a cartoon for more than an hour. Some even called the project Disney's Folly, meaning Disney's crazy mistake. But Walt refused to stop. He chose the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The film required more artists, new techniques, and far more money than anyone expected. As the costs grew, Walt borrowed more and risked the future of his studio. If Snow White failed, Disney might disappear. But Walt believed animation could become more than short comedy. He believed it could become real cinema. When Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs finally opened in 1937, the theater was filled with famous actors and filmmakers. At first, Walt watched quietly, unsure how people would react. Then the audience began to laugh. Later, they became silent during the sad moments. Some people even cried. The film was a triumph, a great and surprising success. Audiences did not see simple drawings. They saw characters with fear, love, hope, and real emotion. Snow White earned worldwide praise and saved the studio from danger. More importantly, it proved that animation could tell a long, powerful story. Walt had risked almost everything. This time, his impossible dream had worked. After Snow White, Walt pushed the studio toward even more ambitious films. The stories became richer, the music more powerful, and the animation more beautiful. But every new dream also cost more money and demanded more from the artists. But success did not remove every problem. These films were expensive to make, and some did not earn enough money at first. Then the Second World War closed many international markets, making the studio's financial situation even harder. Behind the beauty on screen, however, the studio was under growing pressure. There were disagreements inside the company. Walt expected a great deal from his artists, and some felt tired, underpaid, or unheard. This period revealed a more complicated side of him. Walt was creative and brave, but he could also be demanding and difficult. The dream was growing, but so were the pressures behind it. As television entered more homes, many movie studios saw it as a threat, a possible danger to their business. Walt saw something different. He believed television could bring Disney stories directly into family homes. Soon, Walt appeared on screen himself. He spoke warmly to children and parents, shared ideas from behind the scenes, and introduced new Disney programs. Television helped millions of viewers feel that they knew him. It also gave Walt a way to support his next great dream, a place where families could enter the stories they loved. While others feared the new screen, Walt used it as another door into the imagination. Walt's next dream began during quiet afternoons with his daughters. He often took them to amusement parks, but while they played, he sat nearby and watched. He noticed that parents had little to enjoy. Some parks were dirty, crowded, and poorly cared for. Walt imagined something different, a beautiful place where children and adults could have fun together. Every street would tell a story. The gardens would be clean. The workers would feel like part of the show. Guests would not simply watch a fantasy. They would step inside it. This idea slowly became Disneyland. In a film, the audience could only see the story on a screen. But in Walt's new park, people could walk through it, touch it, and feel that the impossible had become real. Building Disneyland was one of Walt's greatest risks. Many people believed the idea was too expensive and too unusual. Some thought families would never travel just to visit a themed park. But Walt continued. He borrowed money, worked with television partners, and visited the construction site again and again. Around him were dust, machines, unfinished buildings, and worried workers. The opening date was getting closer, but many parts of the park were still incomplete. To others, it looked like a difficult construction project. To Walt, it already felt like a living story. He could see the castle, the music, and the smiling families before they were truly there. When Disneyland opened in 1955, the first day was not perfect. The park was crowded, the weather was hot, and several things went wrong. But families still came. Children saw the castle, heard the music, and entered a world unlike anything they had known before. The dream had survived its difficult first day. Earlier, I promised to tell you why Walt sometimes walked through Disneyland before the gates opened. In the quiet morning, before the crowds arrived, he would slowly walk along Main Street. He looked at the gardens, the shops, the clean paths, and the castle in the distance. He noticed small details that most visitors would never see. He studied what could be cleaned, changed, or improved before the crowds arrived. Walt wanted the park to feel magical from every corner. He was a perfectionist, someone who wants every detail to be as good as possible. For a few peaceful minutes, Disneyland belonged only to him. Around him stood the dream that many people had once called impossible. Then the gates opened. Families entered, children smiled, and the silent streets came alive. Walt was no longer imagining the story. He was standing inside it. Even after Disneyland opened, Walt was still looking toward the future. He began imagining something larger than a theme park, a real community where people could live, work, and use new technology. He called the idea EPCOT. Walt pictured clean streets, modern transport, and homes designed for a better way of life. It would not be a place frozen in time. It would continue changing as new ideas appeared. Walt spoke about the project with great excitement. To him, it was the next step after films, television, and Disneyland. But once again, his dream was larger than anything he had built before. And this time, he would not live long enough to complete it. In 1966, Walt Disney's health became weaker. After years of long work, constant pressure, and endless new ideas, his body could no longer keep up with his imagination. Walt died on December 15, 1966. He was 65 years old. He did not live to see every part of his final dream completed. EPCOT was still only an idea, and many future Disney projects had not yet begun. His family lost a husband and father. The studio lost the man who had guided it from a small office to a worldwide name. But Walt's stories did not end with his death. Mickey still smiled. Disneyland still opened its gates. New artists continued building on the world he had created. The dreamer was gone, but the dream kept moving forward. Walt Disney began with a pencil, a few drawings, and almost no money. He failed, lost his first company, and even lost the character he had created. But each time one dream disappeared, he built a larger one. Mickey Mouse became a global symbol. Animated films became powerful stories. Disneyland showed that people could walk inside a world of imagination. Walt was not perfect, but he believed deeply in creativity, courage, and progress. His life reminds us that failure does not always mean the end. Sometimes, it becomes the beginning of a better idea. Walt did not simply create characters. He created places inside the human imagination and invited the world to enter. If Walt Disney's story stayed with you, please like this video and subscribe for more slow English stories about the people who changed our world. And tell me in the comments, what country are you listening from today?